As a mother of 4 children, I know how overwhelming it can feel when toddlers cry all the time. Many parents wonder if something is wrong, or if their child is just being difficult. The truth is, constant crying is a normal and important part of a toddler's growth. In this video, I'll share my own experiences and explain what child psychology teaches us about why toddlers cry so much, and how we as parents can better understand and handle it. As a mother, I have spent many years surrounded by crying, laughter, tantrums, and endless little surprises. With each of my kids, I've experienced the phase where toddlers cry almost all the time. At first, it can feel overwhelming and even confusing, especially when you've already gone through it with older children and still find yourself learning something new with the younger ones. Over time, I realized that constant crying in toddlers is not just random noise or misbehavior. It's an essential part of their development, their communication, and their emotional growth. Understanding this from the perspective of child psychology has not only helped me stay patient but has also given me tools to comfort my children more effectively. When I think about my first child, I remember how helpless I felt in those early toddler years. She would burst into tears for reasons I couldn't even recognize, sometimes because I gave her the wrong color cup, sometimes because I asked her to wear shoes, and sometimes for no reason at all. At that time, I didn't fully understand what was happening, but as my family grew, and I went through the same cycle with 3 more children, I began to see clear patterns. Crying is the main language of toddlers. They don't yet have the vocabulary, the self-control, or the maturity to express big emotions, so tears become their universal tool. From a psychological perspective, toddlers cry because they are at a stage of rapid development. Their brains are still learning how to regulate emotions like frustration, anger, fear, and even excitement. Imagine feeling something huge inside you but not knowing how to put it into words or how to calm yourself down. That's what a toddler experiences almost daily. For me, as a mother, it helped to remind myself that crying is not manipulation or mischief most of the time. It is simply the overflow of emotions that are too big for such a small child to handle. Another important factor I learned is that toddlers cry to get their needs met. Hunger, tiredness, discomfort, or overstimulation can all trigger tears instantly. With 4 kids, I've become much better at reading the signs before the breakdown begins. For example, if my youngest starts rubbing her eyes, I know a nap is overdue. If my son suddenly melts down at the dinner table, I check if he's really hungry or just overwhelmed by too much noise. Crying is their way of signaling that something inside them is out of balance, and while it can feel exhausting, it's also their survival mechanism. I also noticed that toddlers cry when they feel powerless. My 3rd child especially struggled with this. She wanted to do everything by herself: pour juice, put on shoes, even buckle her car seat, but her little hands and limited skills made her frustrated. Whenever I tried to help, she often burst into tears. At first, it was hard not to step in, but with time, I realized that crying was her way of coping with the gap between what she wanted to do and what she was able to do. Child psychology explains this as part of developing autonomy. Toddlers are learning independence but haven't yet mastered patience or resilience. There is also a social and relational side to all this crying. Toddlers cry to connect with their parents. As mothers, we sometimes underestimate how much our presence means to our little ones. I have often seen my youngest cry simply because I walked out of the room for a few minutes. Separation anxiety plays a big role at this age. From a psychological point of view, crying reassures them that they are not alone and that their attachment figure is nearby. Even though it can feel clingy, it's actually a sign that the child feels safe enough to express vulnerability. Over the years, I also came to realize that toddlers cry because they are still learning self-control. Unlike older children, they don't yet have the internal brakes to stop emotions from spilling out. If they feel jealous because I'm holding another sibling, the tears come without filter. If they feel scared of a loud noise, crying is instant. It's not that they want to make life hard for their parents. It's just that their brain's emotional control system is still under construction. Knowing this gave me more patience, because instead of expecting adult-like behavior, I adjusted my expectations to their developmental stage. As a mother of 4, I have also seen how personality differences play a role. One of my children was naturally calm and rarely cried except when truly uncomfortable. Another one seemed to cry at the smallest trigger. Both were normal, but their temperaments shaped how they handled emotions. Child psychology recognizes that temperament, whether a child is sensitive, intense, or easygoing, affects how often and how strongly they cry. Accepting this variation helped me stop comparing my kids and start responding to each one according to their needs. Sleep and routine also make a huge difference. When my toddlers missed a nap or stayed up too late, the next day almost guaranteed more crying spells. Their little bodies and brains thrive on structure, and without it, they get irritable quickly. That's not just my personal observation. Studies in child psychology confirm that regular sleep patterns help regulate emotional stability in toddlers. So I learned the hard way that a well-rested child is a calmer child, while an overtired one can unravel into constant tears. Another layer is how toddlers absorb stress from their environment. When my house was chaotic, or when I was visibly stressed, I noticed my toddlers cried more. Children at this age are highly sensitive to the moods of their caregivers. They don't just cry because of their own emotions. They sometimes reflect the emotional climate around them. This taught me the importance of staying calm myself. If I reacted with frustration, the crying usually escalated. But when I took a deep breath, knelt down, and spoke softly, my toddlers calmed down faster. Now that my older children are past the toddler stage, I can look back and see how temporary this crying phase really is. At the time, it felt endless, but with growth came better language skills, better emotional control, and fewer tears. The key lesson I carry with me is that crying is not a sign of weakness or failure. It's simply a stage of communication. Toddlers cry all the time because that is their best tool for survival, expression, and connection, until they learn other ways to handle the world. So when I see mothers, especially new ones, looking worn out and asking why their toddlers never stop crying, I want to tell them that you are not alone, and nothing is wrong with your child. This is how their brains and hearts grow. Crying is a bridge between helplessness and independence, between babyhood and childhood. It's noisy, messy, and exhausting, but it is also meaningful. As a mother of 4, I've learned that my job is not to stop the crying altogether, but to understand it, respond with empathy, and guide my children gently toward healthier ways of expressing themselves. In the end, I have come to appreciate that crying is not just about the noise, it is about growth. Each tear shed in those early years carries a message. I need you, I'm learning, I feel overwhelmed. Or simply, I want comfort. And when I look at it that way, I realize that even in the loudest, most challenging moments, my toddlers were simply being human in the only way they knew how. In the end, I've learned that toddlers don't cry to make life harder for us. They cry because that's the only way they can express themselves. Every tear carries a message, sometimes of need, sometimes of frustration, and often just a call for comfort. As mothers, our patience and empathy become the bridge that helps them grow into calmer, stronger children. This crying phase may feel endless, but it truly is temporary. One day, those tears turn into words, and we realize just how far they've come.